Hello and welcome to England Cricket on 99.94 Cricket every day. I am Daniel Norcross, BBC TMS commentator, occasional podcaster, occasional writer, and I have alongside me, as I always do, the lead cricket writer for the Press Association, the man we call the puff pastry hangman himself. It is Rory Dollard. England Cricket on 99.94 is your new home for England cricket content, and we will be dropping into your podcast feed and on YouTube or the 99.94 app several times every week. So please do rate, review, and subscribe. Thanks for joining Cricket Conversation. Today, we are going to discuss, well, there's only really one story in town, and it's England's remarkable victory in the Test series against Pakistan. They are 2-0 up with one to play. They have won as many Test matches in a week and a half as England have won in over 50 years in Pakistan, nearly 60 years for that matter. It is an extraordinary achievement with a bunch of players who were written off as absolutely hopeless. We've discussed this many times before, but today I'd like us to focus on how England have gone down there with effectively a bowling attack that I think nobody gave any real credence to, and taken 40 wickets, 20 wickets in each match. It's quite extraordinary. We're going to also look at changes for the third test. Will there be any? Where's Ben Foakes sit in all this mix? How does Johnny Bairstow get back in the team? We discussed Ben Stokes opening the batting before. We'll also cast an eye over England's women in the West Indies, who continue to, well, churn out thumping victories. But what does this say about the wider quality of the women's game? Let's begin, though, Rory, with that remarkable victory yesterday. Remarkable because England were on top throughout the entire match, it seemed to me, until they kind of gave Pakistan a little sniff, threw away their last 5 wickets, then were on top again before partnership got Pakistan to within 65 of victory with 5 wickets to go down on a docile pitch. And you call for Mark Wood. He gets 2 people strangled down the leg side. One of them, you'd have to say, rather fortunately, looking at the replay, touch-and-go decision that went in England's favour. And yet, we're talking now about a 2-0 series win that could so easily, with the declaration that Ben Stokes offered at Rawalpindi, and then with that slightly lackadaisical batting and the fact that Pakistan's batters, well, you know, on a pitch like that seemed to get better, looked for all the world like they were going to win the second match as well. We're in euphoria because England are 2-0 up. They could be 2-0 down.
Yeah, and I think that's the plan, isn't it? Like, they've come to a position where they have near enough manufactured scenarios where there would be 2 results, because the results is what they wanted. And they have come out on the right side of them, but the whole guiding philosophy behind this England setup is they don't have to come out on the right side of these scenarios for it to be the right decision. So England have gambled and risked and pushed the envelope a little bit here and there, whether it be in the declaration or whether it be in making the first part of this game go fantastically quickly and considerably more quickly than it had to. They've guaranteed that on pitches where, you know, we're saying England have won 2 games, but they easily could have lost 2 games. Actually, you could be looking at 2 draws. This pitch did spin a bit, but it could have been, one way to negate that spin could have been to bat slowly and carefully and take 2 days out of the game. So what England have done is lived and died by their plans and their philosophy of moving the game, and they've done that in 2 different ways. So we waxed lyrical about last week in Rawalpindi. That felt like peak McCullum Stokes, because it was all about batting super, super fast and then making a sort of a bit of a pissing contest declaration. And that felt like that's what they're set up for. This time, they've won a game through positivity, where they basically didn't get any runs in the first innings. Or not half as many, less than half as many than what they got the previous time. So this was versatility, I suppose. This was Bazball. You allowed to say Bazball or not? I'm not sure anymore.
No, we're not really, but
this was
Ben Ball.
Ben Ball. This was Ben Ball in a different way. It was getting to the end point with the game unfolding differently. So it does feel like we're in the midst of something quite significant, doesn't it? Like the way that they performed in the summer against the opposition, India, New Zealand, South Africa. Then they've gone over here to Pakistan, and it just feels like something quite important and something with a bit of legs is kicking off underneath us.
It does. But I would say that yesterday was defined, it seemed to me, by the result. By which I mean that England winning by 26 runs has meant that we have all looked at this revolutionary new way of playing and been amazed at its success. We could so easily have been marvelling at this new way of playing and wondering at its failure, because when a side is 2-0 up with 5 minutes to go in a game of football, they don't necessarily feel that they need to entertain for the last 5 minutes plus injury time and hurl everybody forward in search of a third. Now, when England found themselves 320 odd ahead with 5 wickets remaining and 2 set batters, yes, people can get out. I know they can. But when Ollie Robinson then has Harry Brook at the other end and he charges down the wicket, this is a straight one with one of the worst shots you will ever see in the history of cricket. I heard somebody comparing it with Jack Leach's first innings effort. The difference there was that Mark Wood was in at the other end, and it kind of made a sort of sense in the way that Jack Leach had been encouraged to play. But Ollie Robinson, I beg your pardon, had Harry Brook at the other end. And you sort of think that it's possible, isn't it, for Ben Ball to develop? By which I mean, yes, with the continued aggressive approach, always looking to take the game forward, always looking, in inverted commas, to entertain and to redefine Test cricket. But there are some definitions within Test cricket that don't really need redefining. If you're 320 ahead with 5 wickets down on a flat track in Pakistan, just make damn sure you get to 400 plus, which they could have done. So there'll be refinements to this, won't there? I'd heard Stephen Finn sort of compare it a little bit with the Owen Morgan revolution, well, more than a little bit, really, which was that the white ball team came out in that series against New Zealand and whacked 370 odd, 400 near as. But they also, in that early stage of finding their feet in white ball cricket, did get bowled out for 240 and 40. And you lose the game when you do that one-day cricket, because 240 is not enough. England are going to be in danger of losing those test matches. And somehow to lose a test match when you've got yourself so far in front in Pakistan would have felt like a hammer blow. So there is a sense in which a little bit of just evolution of the approach, learning from those situations so that you slam the door shut. You can slam a door shut quite creatively. It doesn't have to be unbelievably boring. It doesn't have to be John Edrich and Geoffrey Boycott's, well, not so much slamming a door shut as closing the door, cutting out a little hole in it and saying, you don't even want to come in here. Do you see what we're doing? I mean, do you know what I mean? So there will be evolution, won't there, in this?
Yeah.
We're not watching the finished article.
Yeah. The best way to provide the entertainment that England want to provide was to have Harry Brook stay there for quite a long time and do his thing. So that's the refinement. Is there is a little bit of negotiation along the line that not everyone has to play wild, because actually the best route to this frenzy is to let the people who are really good at it make sure they have enough time to do it. But get your wins out for the lads. They're not going to listen to. They're not going to listen to any talk, and why should they? They've found this heady brew is doing them just fine. So until they come rolling off the rails, I mean, they have said it. McCullum did say last summer, I want to fail to see where the ceiling on this thing is, and he haven't found it yet. So let's wait until
they had a pretty damn good. They had a damn good go at Rawalpindi. Getting 500 a day with 4 centurions in 75 overs, and then an absolutely madcap, crazy declaration. So, look, we've got an idea of how they're going to go about it. I just would like. I think you're absolutely right. No one is going to be listening to us in that team camp, and there's no reason why they should. And in fact, they should actively, definitely not listen to us. But
or anyone,
Joe Root, no, indeed. But Joe Root kind of plays Ben Ball anyway, and it would be nice for him to leave Pakistan with one of the many, many centuries. Just a brief before we go to the next break. Most number of hundreds by England players in a calendar year. England play a lot of test matches these days, it has to be said, but 22, I think it is, and Joe Root hasn't got one at all in Pakistan, where you might have thought he'd have been nailed on for at least one, probably two. Maybe that's going to happen in Karachi. After the break, when we come back, we're going to look at the composition of England's side. Are there going to be any changes for the third test?
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
Welcome back. So, it looks like Pakistan's route to victory, and totally understandably, Rory, given the injuries they've got to their quicker bowlers. They brought in Harris, Ralph Whiteball specialist, but then he's down. Shaheen Sharafridi is down. Nazim Shah's not fit. Hassan Ali and Mohammed Abbas have not been brought into the side. They're fast bowling stocks. England have outbowled them. And you rarely say that in Pakistan. But part of the reason is, A, Anderson and Robinson, particularly accompanied by Wood in this test match, have bowled exceptionally well. But B, Pakistan do not have that many seamers that they can call on. So the move in Multan was to make the pitch favourable to spin. It wasn't a ragging turn. It wasn't Ahmedabad in a pink ball test, but there was encouragement there. We saw the brilliance of Abra, who on debut just looked $1 million. So you'd imagine that they'd do something similar for Karachi, and they're going to want to come out of this test match with a win. You don't get draws against England these days, but they're going to want to give themselves a good chance to bowl England out twice. If they do that, it's more likely to be with spin, given that that's been their most potent weapon. And actually, England's spinners, Jack Leach is going at about 57 runs for a wicket. Will Jacks, after taking 6 wickets in his first innings, wasn't really trusted on that last day. It was a lot more of Joe Root. Dare I say the words Rian Ahmed. He's in the side, and if they're going to make a change, and I can see two changes, actually. I can see Folks coming in, and I can see Rian Ahmed coming in. I'm not quite sure how I get them both in, but there's a possibility, isn't there? And what a dreamy debut that would be. It would be the youngest man, he'd be the youngest man ever to play for England in a test match. Yeah,
it does feel like with the series won, it feels very appealing for England to look at Rian Ahmed. He also is a really good batter. And he actually, when I interviewed him in October, I was asking him all kinds of questions about being a young leg spinner and what's it like to be England's great young hope. And he said, yeah, but I am a batter. and, which is great fun. But he in that last match of the season, his third first-class match, let's be honest, he got his maiden fifer and his maiden century. So he isn't necessarily too wild of a pick for Will Jacks, who was himself not a stick-on, or not a certainty. So with what's coming ahead and with the excitement around a young leg spinner, it feels almost too tempting for people like Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum not to pull the pin on this one. The only thing is they'll have seen him in the nets, they'll have been around him. I suspect the only thing that would really hold them back is if they felt he wasn't ready and that it would be a damaging thing for him. But he is exceptionally, exceptionally confident and assured in himself.
Okay, so let me give you the other scenario. And this seems like a rather tame one, but is it really? If you bring in Ben Folks for Will Jacks, just make that one change, try to get back-to-back tests out of Mark Wood. If he can't, then get his light-for-light replacement in the squad, which is Jamie Overton, as near as. That's the next nearest option. Because if you're not going to bowl Will Jacks, then having Will Jacks back down at number 7 and force Ollie Pope to take the gloves, which meant that in the second innings he came in lower down and ran himself out, looked frenetic. England have found a number 3 in Ollie Pope, and they're in danger of missing out on the joys of having the number 3 that is Ollie Pope if they don't want him to bat at number 3 after he's just taken the gloves. So is that the safe option? And if it is the safe option, does that mean it's definitely not going to happen?
Probably. It is safe, and I wouldn't be surprised if Folks plays, because Stokes is so... He's got a way, Stokes, of there's only really been, I think we've said this before, there's only really been Alex Lees who's been dropped by England so far
Matt
under this
Potts,
regime.
but not quite.
No,
sort of.
no, quite the opposite. He's been dropped in the most mindful way possible. Like every time England dropped Matt Potts, and they dropped him at the end of the summer, and then they didn't pick him for this tour, I've had to double check at the end of the press conference that he's definitely not in the team or the squad because they're so positive and so effusive about him. And I think I suspect he'll play in New Zealand. He feels like that'd be a great place for him to get out. And actually, I do think he would have been quite helpful out here. He runs in hard and keeps going, and I think they could have actually made pretty good use of Potts. But I don't feel Matt Potts has been dropped. I don't feel Ben Foakes has been dropped. They're kind of, they have a way of keeping them pretty happy. And I think Foakes playing this week would be one way of doing that. And actually also easing up on Ollie Pope, because it's been, you'd think his body is barking at him right now, wouldn't you? That after what he's spent in the field and he's not been used to doing that. But talk about safe picks. I wouldn't pick Mark Wood for a moment in this test match. I wouldn't even consider picking Mark Wood. I would pick Jamie Overton because we need to get to a position where Mark Wood is rolled out when he is required and not used as a workhorse. I'd be really wary about using him in back-to-back tests ever. And I certainly wouldn't use him in back-to-back tests when we've won the series. It would be dangerous because he puts... Just watch one ball of Mark Wood. Really watch it. Really, really watch it. It's a year of work. It's a year of work. So, I honestly, it feels like him turning up for one game on this tour and winning it, and winning the series, job done. Sit down, go and sing God Save the King with the Barmy Army, do all that stuff. I think England would be mad to play Mark Wood. I'd give Jamie Overton a run out, see how he looks now. And whether you pair that with Riyad Ahmed, that's the only thing. Whether a bowling attack of Jamie Overton and Riyad Ahmed in tandem looks a little bit punchy, I don't know, but they are going to look for that. They are going to look for that ceiling, aren't they? We're going to see when too much is. How much is too much?
Yeah, I mean the only issue there is I don't think you can bring in folks as well to do that because then I can't really see how the composition of the team then works out. So yeah, on balance, I think it's more likely that you're going to get Overton for Wood and Folks for Jacks. That strikes me as the likeliest option.
Yeah.
And time will tell. It is a match that is important still. I mean, coming away with a 3-0 win, it doesn't seem to matter really. When Stokes takes the field, the idea is that the team goes out there to entertain, and each game is seen as an opportunity. The extraordinary sidebar to this, of course, is it would mean that James Anderson and Ollie Robinson would play all 3 matches, and the way in which Stokes has used them as bowlers has made that possible. The workload for Anderson has been remarkably light, considering, and England earned themselves an extra day and a half off as a result of wrapping up the test match in double quick time. For Pakistan, do you see any changes? I mean, they're struggling with resources. I thought the balance of their batting lineup was better this time by having a couple more all-rounders in there, but their seam bowling resources look pretty toothless, and their wicket-taking potential all seem to depend on a debutant in Abrar.
Yeah, Shaheen's been such a big loss. They are a different proposition with him because he brings electric passages of play to bear, so he's been a huge loss for them. I mean, Nazim Shah didn't play in this game. You'd expect he would play, wouldn't you? I mean, he is their class player, bowler, in the absence of Shaheen, so he's had a game out. You'd think he'd come back. I think if Pakistan win a test match against this England team, I think Azhar Ali has a job to do with that because he can grind them. And say if there is, I mean, either Mark Wood plays or Overton plays, say, and Azhar is a batsman who can make Wood come back again and again, make Anderson bowl a few more than he has to, or really put the mockers on, a young bowler like, not a young bowler, but a inexperienced bowler like Overton. So I think they look, he hasn't been in good form. I think they look stronger with Azhar Ali in the batting lineup as a real specialist.
Well, time will tell. That match starts on Saturday. I'm flying out to Pakistan to commentate that for TMS. And
You'll probably have to leave that jacket at home.
Well, it's 2 degrees today outside where I am, and I'm flying this afternoon to Karachi, and I'm due to arrive in 30-degree heat. So the 28-degree difference would be quite a thing. And my colleagues have put in various requests for me to bring things from home. You know, they've only been out there 2 weeks, and the requests are cough mixture, cold and flu tablets, pot noodles.
Sounds like quite the cocktail.
Yeah, I bought a load of chocolate for Phil Brown. He asked for Lindt chocolate orange.
Nice.
So I bought Lindt chocolate orange, and he told me I got the wrong one, and I was a complete idiot. Yes. So I'll just eat the chocolate oranges myself. It's time for our second and final break. When we come back, we're going to take a quick look at how the women are getting on out in the West Indies. And spoiler alert, it's really rather well.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So, welcome back. England's men we've put to bed. 2-0 in the series, 1 to go for the England women.
We should just mention that the Rawalpindi pitch has been marked down.
Oh.
Got a demerit point for being not a good contest between bat and ball. So listen, that's a good thing because it was garbage pitch, useless, very, very against the interests of good Test cricket, despite England's best efforts. But it's 1 demerit point because there was a result probably. If that was a draw, it might get 3. But you're allowed 5 demerit points before you actually.
So you could have 5 of those naughties.
So you could have. So they've had 2. They've had 2 demerits now because the Australia one also was marked down. But they're allowed to do that for 3 more years before we actually do something about the pitch. So it's no good. Go a bit harder. Tell them to dig it up and get on with it.
With a bit of luck, that will be the incentive that they need to make sure the same doesn't happen in Karachi. But back to the women. And the women are on an 8-match tour of the West Indies. They play 3 one-day internationals, 5 T20s. They won all 3 one-day internationals by colossal margins, 140-plus runs. The first T20, well, it followed a slightly different script, but it was still a huge margin of victory for England. They won by 8 wickets, having restricted the West Indies just 105 in their 20 overs. It's a massive mismatch. England have got a wonderful blend of youth and experience. They've got a new coach out there. Hardly anyone's able to see or hear the matches, but the information that I have seen and that I am getting just shows dominance by England at the moment. And, you know, England fans and the England setup will be happy at that, but there must be some disquiet. This is the West Indies we're talking about, recent winners of the World T20, and they look so far off the pace. The differences in quality in women's cricket now that have come in as a result of professionalism, which is something that we all applaud, but it's uneven professionalism across the board, is a matter for no small concern, isn't it, Rory?
Yeah, and England is strengthening up their ranks. You know, while other people are getting to where England were a few years ago, England are increasing the number of professional contracts, increasing the competition, building these, you know, options that we've talked about before, freshened up the team. There's a game, you know, plenty of games coming up. They're coming thick and fast. But where we stand right now, it doesn't look at all impossible that England would leave the tour with 8 wins. And doesn't look good. Like,
well, it's not how one-day cricket is supposed to go, or white ball cricket.
No.
You know, yes, the better side is going to win, but in a 5-match T20 series, at least you want to see the West Indies getting close. You want to see Hayley Matthews whack an impressive 70, put some pressure on England. At the moment, there's no pressure, but it's really hard to be critical of. You can't be critical of the England women. I mean, they're playing what's put out in front of them, and they're absolutely marmalising them, and we should be delighted for the likes of Lauren Bell and for the returning Heather Knight. It's great to see Sophia Dunkley in there. It's great to see Winfield Hill back, batting at number 3. Danny Wyatt. So that sort of experience and that youth is coming together really well. But West Indies don't have a professional setup. And unfortunately, these kind of mismatches, they're in danger of taking women's cricket back a little, or at least international cricket, and making the focus far more on leagues, isn't it? Because that's where you're going to see the cream of the crop.
Yeah, and you've rightly mentioned on several occasions that this is not a series that's been particularly well sort of publicised, documented, broadcast. It's been a little bit niche. Well, honestly, the competitiveness of the matches hasn't helped that, and it won't. There'll not be many people in those studios or in those decision-making offices who go, God, we must have a piece of that. There's not going to be a ticker tape parade for England winning 5-0 in the T20 series if that happens. It needs to be a bit better. Negativity done with for the moment. Lauren Bell is emerging from this series as the star. The sort of she came into the team in the summer, but looks to be stepping up a level really every time, and looks like a real red hot flyer for the Ashes summer that's coming ahead. Sophia Dunkley's been moved up again to open, and there's been a bit of a theme of empowerment there for John Lewis at the start of this tenure, whereby Capsey was opening in the ODIs. Dunkley was settling at 3. Now Dunkley's opening in the T20s. They have really given a lot, and even just Lauren Bell opening the bowling each time. There's been a real confidence and belief in those young players to set the tone and set the bar. And I'd love someone to explain to me, someone who knows better. I have asked people actually, and I either don't get an answer that I like or I don't understand it, one of the two. But I don't know why Sarah Glenn is a lock-in for the T20s and doesn't play ODIs, really, generally. And it's a bit...
Yes, I've asked that question as well. It's as if...
Don't really understand it.
Well, I think is that they think that she's going to go at 6 and over. And 6 and over in 4 overs in a T20 is absolutely marvellous. 6 and over in 10 overs is less marvellous. That's my feeling. I mean, I can't put it any other way.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that people have to settle against her, the more over she has to bowl, the more people get into a groove. I don't know. But being typecast as a 20-over player is not the worst thing in the world. You're going to have quite a long career doing that, I would have thought.
Yeah.
And that's where the money is. So. You don't see too many 50-over leagues cropping up.
True. I once asked a former national selector of the England men's team, you can try and guess who it was if you want, why Chris Jordan for several years was just always in every T20 team and opened the bowling and was like Owen Morgan's go-to man in the field, and then just never appeared in any ODI squads. And I was told I really didn't understand that they were very different skill sets until he was then recalled to the 50-over team. Apparently the skill sets changed then, from what I can gather. But
the lesson there, Rory, is that when you ask people who work in cricket, who are on the playing side, what's going on, you must expect to be treated with complete and utter contempt. And
default. That's my default.
I've got used to it over the years. It's quite comfy. It's a little bit like this magnificent sheepskin jacket that I am currently wearing, but will shortly be divesting of as I head to Pakistan. The next time Rory and I will be together will be, God willing, when I'm in Karachi and you're still in England, and we'll be mulling over the start of a third and final Test match, and also casting our eye on a couple more T20s that would have taken place between England's women and the West Indies. But for now, thank you for listening to England Cricket on 99.94, where we speak cricket every day. Please rate, review and subscribe wherever you enjoy your podcasts. You can download the 99.94 app and follow us on Twitter at, in my case, Norcross Cricket, and where you'll find all sorts of pictures of pot noodles and chocolates and Private Eyes and Cavonia and Lemsip Cold and Flu. Other brands are available. Not that it actually matters on 99.94. If Lemsip wanted to come and get me, please, for Lemsip. Enough from Norcross Cricket. Where are you on, Rory?
I am at the RVD. That's where you will likely not find me, because do people even get to this bit? I don't know.
Yeah, they might do. Yeah, they might do. I just thought you were actually abandoning Twitter altogether in some kind of dirty protest against Elon Musk. No,
come over. The water's nice. Join me.
Excellent. You can download the 99.94 app and follow us on Twitter, of course, and never miss out. Join our 24/7 conversation on social media. Follow us at 9994DM. But for now, goodbye. You've been listening to Cricket every day, your way.